Hey guys, this is Stel Yafty with Close.io. I want to talk about lazy communication in the workplace and how it leads to a lot of interruption, a lot of unproductivity, and ultimately also to the person that is communicating lazily being perceived as somebody that's not really serious or not thinking things through. So what do I mean by this? I'll give you two examples from our own work environment. So just a few days ago, I had somebody at work send me an email and ask for a specific set of numbers, traffic numbers and conversion numbers on our site and things like that. And I went to our Google Analytics account and I started to looking up those numbers and trying to put them together for that person. When I realized and remembered, holy shit, that person has access to Google Analytics themselves. Like, he could do that without my help. I don't have to do that work for him. So I sent an email back and said, you know what, you do actually have access to Google Analytics. You could go and find these numbers yourself. And the reply to that email was, oh shit, yeah, you're right. Okay, let me do that. Another example, a sales guy asks me for if I have a few minutes to give feedback on a sales email they want to send out. So I say, sure. I get that email in my inbox. I read through it. I have a few comments to make. One of which was that the email should be shorter. So, the content is good, but it needs to be shortened up. There's very long-winded sentences in there that can be taken out. So I reply with my list of with my 3-4 pointers of feedback. And the person sits in the same room, reads the email obviously immediately, and then stands up and says, hey, Stelly, regarding your email, what exactly should I shorten? And I said, you know what, did you read my feedback email in terms of what did I say in that email? Well, you said that, the second and third paragraph could be a sentence instead of a paragraph, so I could shorten that up. Okay, and have you tried to actually edit that paragraph down to a sentence? The other guy would say, no. All right, let me try this now. Two examples where somebody interrupts me and asks me for things that they could answer themselves if they only took a moment to think it through, right? And that's what I call lazy communication. Lazy communication is whenever you communicate in front of thinking, right? You communicate and then you think about what you just communicated. So instead of, and it's very much impulse-driven. Something happens and you impulsively just say, hey, can you get me this? Hey, can you explain me that? Versus you get an impulse, oh, I want to know something, I'm curious about something, oh, I didn't understand something, and then taking a few more moments to say, all right, so before I follow that urge and communicate out loud and interrupt somebody, let me actually ask a few questions to see if I can help myself and save other people time and trouble, right? So ask yourself, first and foremost, can I answer this question myself? Well, I wonder what exactly he means I should shorten. Can I answer this question myself? Well, let me read the email again. Blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, okay, I get it. Let me try to do this myself before I actually interrupt somebody. Same thing with can I do this myself? Well, I want to know these numbers, and I know these numbers are in this specific tool, and I have access to that tool. Yeah, but I almost never use it, so I'd rather interrupt somebody else. No, 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 no. You have access to the tool. Go inside, explore, and figure it out yourself. Right? Empower yourself so you can answer these questions in the future yourself without having to interrupt somebody else and have them do your work, right? So ask yourself, can I do this myself? Then ask yourself, have I thought this through? Just take a moment to think it through. And then ask yourself, is this actually urgent or is it important or neither? And depending on what it is, your actions should be completely different. If it's truly urgent, if the answer to this you can't come up with the answer yourself, you don't have access to that answer yourself, you've thought it through, but you still can't get there, and you're certain it is urgent, getting an answer immediately has a dramatic impact on the result versus getting an answer a few hours later, or maybe a day later, or a week later, then you have the permission to interrupt, right? Interrupt somebody else through an email, a call, a chat, going to their desk and tipping them on the shoulder. You have permission to do that, and that's the right setting and context in which to do that. If it's important, but it's not urgent, you don't have to interrupt anybody. Well, this is really important, but it will make no difference if I know this today or if I have the answer to this today or tomorrow. Well then, instead of interrupting somebody in person by shouting out their name or tapping them on the shoulder or calling them, you might want to use a non-synchronous way of communicating, like email, right? And send them an email so they can read that and answer that whenever they want. And you might want to specify in that email, it's totally fine to answer this by Friday, right? It's important, but it's not urgent. And then if it's neither of these two things, you might want to not ask the question at all, right? Just save yourself the trouble. If it's just a curiosity, maybe if it's important enough, it'll come up again when you have lunch or dinner or drinks with that person, or in any other kind of team meeting setting, any setting where people are already interrupted anyways. No need to talk to somebody, but maybe also no need to send somebody an email and put another task in their inbox. Maybe if it's just a curiosity, it'll come up in the right context when people are interrupted anyways, and you don't have to do that right now. So avoid lazy communication in the workplace is going to make your colleagues, your employees, your bosses, all of them, as well as yourself, a lot more productive. And it would also change the profile that you have, because if you're somebody that does a lot of lazy communication, like talking before thinking, all the time interrupting people with stupid questions, which is basically just questions that haven't been thought through clearly enough, then that's going to make people perceive you a certain way. That's going to make people devalue the questions you ask because they're used to being interrupted with questions that you could have answered yourself or that weren't really urgent, et cetera, et cetera. So it really is going to make a lot to your brand and your relationships with others and the way people perceive you. And it also will make yourself and your team a lot more productive. So whenever possible, avoid lazy communication. Make sure you think things through before you act on those impulses.